Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to get our AOVs set up for our scene. The way we'll do that is we'll go to our render settings, and we know you need to go set up our AOVs. So when you come into your render settings, you'll be in the common tab. Just hop over here to AOVs. All right, so on the AOVs, what we want to do is we want to add the AOVs for what we need for the comp, or at least show how you composite AOVs. And so on your AOV list, there's only some specific ones that I need you to use. All right. The first three are going to be these three diffuse: albedo, direct, and indirect. Albedo shows just the texture information. It doesn't show any lighting or anything like that. So it's like a raw texture show of how it looks on the model. Use that to kind of get an idea like what color or how bright and what color your object should be in the scene. All right. So to do that, we have direct and we have the indirect. So direct light is light that comes directly from a light source. Indirect is any light that has bounced off another object. All right, so we have those three, and I'm going to scroll down to the specular, and I need just the direct and indirect specular. All right, we'll add those in. And so once I do that, I get these five, and that's really all I need. Next thing you want to do is you want to hop over to your common tab. And so when we render these AOVs, we want them to be combined into one image. We don't want, if I leave it to Vault right now, what'll happen is when I do the batch render, I will get 6 images and 6 files when it renders, because it's going to render a single file for every single AOV. And I don't want that. And so what I want to do is I want to turn on merge AOVs right here. All right, so when you turn that on, what that does is in the EXR, it will combine all of your AOVs into one. Okay. So the next thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and come down here and set your frame and extension, the name number extension, and it defaults to 4, but you can set yours to 3 if you want. It's only 200 and some frames, so a three-digit pad is fine. Don't go to 2. 2's too small. So you want to make sure you have a 3-digit pad in there. All right, and then don't be afraid to do test renders where you just want to find out how long it's going to take to render. So what you can do is you can just do a quick batch render with 10 frames and see how long it takes. Get an idea of roughly how long it's going to be to get your render done. 10 frames is the best time to find out if you've done it right without having to sit and wait however long it takes for it to render out your entire scene. Okay, so we'll go ahead and I'm going to leave that 1 to 10 right now. And I'm just going to do a quick test just to see what this looks like. So I'm going to go to my Arnold, and I'm going to go ahead and just say render. And we'll let it go ahead and run through. And it's going to go ahead and do my render real quick. And while it's rendering, I can go up here, and on my beauty, I can drop down. And you can see I have these other things in here. So I can look at my albedo. So there's the texture information and what it looks like. All right, so that's the color you're kind of shooting for. Then I have my direct. So this is direct diffuse. This is lighting that's coming directly to the object itself. All right, and then I have my indirect. So this is everything coming from the bounce cards and everything, all the light that bounces off of itself. All right, so that's done. Specular, there's my reflectivity. So everything, you can see where the released specular stuff's at. And then I also have the indirect. So this is my indirect spec. So indirect spec is anything that shows up in a reflection that's been bounced. So any light that's being reflected that's bounce light. So you can think of it as like the indirect diffuse, but only indirect diffuse that is visible in a reflection. Okay, and those 4 things are what you need for doing a comp with just the AOVs. All right. So once we get that part done, we can go ahead and get ready and set up the batch render. And so for this batch render, make sure your scene name's right. It's going to the right place. Right now it's going to be, the image name is going to be my brand of Joe CA3 2006 animation. I need to save my scene. So I'll do file, save scene as, and we'll call this one render. 2106 render. I'll say render. Okay, and save as. And so once I do that, then now it's going to be Brand Joe CA3 2106 render.exr. All right. Now, whenever you batch render this, you want to go up and you'll want to go to your rendering menu. So go to rendering. And Arnold doesn't do a batch render. What you have to do is you have to go to render and say render sequence. All right, I'll hit the option box on this. And what this allows you to do is pick your camera, and then it will go ahead, and the defaults are fine. You can go ahead and just take the default. And you can say render sequence and close, or render sequence. Render sequence and close just closes this dialog box and kicks off the render. But you can just say render sequence and it keeps the dialog box open. But the defaults on this are fine. Just make sure it is on camera 1. Make sure it's not on perspective or anything like that. Okay, and when you're ready, you just hit batch render and close, or render sequence and close. And when you do, your Maya will be tied up. You won't be able to do anything while it's rendering. So keep that in mind before you hit the button. I'm going to go ahead and hit my button, and I'll stop the recording. And then we can jump from here straight to Nuke. And you can go in Nuke and start compositing your stuff. All right, and I'll have a video for how to composite these AOVs from Arnold. All right, I'll hit my render sequence, and then we'll close out of this.